The next step on our agenda today is to introduce our Veterans Court judge, Judge John Roach. John? So we have just a great opportunity to have a very unique capability, not just in Collin County, and he's going to talk about the other counties, but it is quite a privilege to have Judge Roach here today.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it very much. Good afternoon, everybody. That was boring. Let's try that again, all right? I know y'all are in the middle of eating, but come on now. Good afternoon, everybody. All right, that's much better. Again, my name is John Roach, Jr., and what I'm going to talk to you today about Veterans Court. Does anybody know about Veterans Court other than the obvious people who know about it, and I see a lot, okay? Let me ask you this way. Who has not ever heard of a Veterans Court before? Okay, outstanding. All right. So here's what the deal is. As we all know, and by the way, I am humbled to be here, to be in a group of people who are dedicated and make their life's work for the help of veterans and for their families is really impressive. And so just to be here with y'all and to work together for the benefit of our veterans and their families is just awesome. And I really appreciate the opportunity to address you and teach you just about a one leg of what we're doing for veterans here in North Texas through the Veterans Court program. As y'all know, because you work with veterans, we have a lot of veterans who come back from combat or their military service and they have issues. Okay, and those issues are often not dealt with appropriately because we have the macho sense of being a veteran. By the way, I'm a Marine, and so we come back with an opportunity. Okay, let's. You know what? I interrupted you. I'm sorry. I'm a Marine. See, there you go. And so, as you know, we come back a little bit different when we started. And some people go right back into society and integrate themselves into society, okay, and some don't. Some have issues that they don't want to address because they see that as a sign of weakness. They see that as a sign that they didn't do something right. And so instead of trying to seek help through the guidance of mentors and the VA facilities and all the other things that are available to veterans, they come back and they begin to self-medicate. And they self-medicate through the use of drugs. They self-medicate through the use of alcohol. And other substances. Huffing is something that I've seen a lot of. And they self-medicate in an effort to deal with whatever they're dealing with. Also, too, they might have some other mental conditions that they're trying to compensate for and not doing it the appropriate way through medications and therapies and treatments and all. In addition, when they come back from combat...
Would you stand on that side so they can see you when they're filming artists?
Oh, and okay, great. I'm glowing. I'm glowing? Okay. I've heard that before, I'm glowing. No, not really. But they're coming back with these issues, and then they're also coming back with anger issues. We've had veterans come back and they're in a bar and somebody decides to say something about, I don't know, their country. And they take offense to that, as we might, but handle it the inappropriate way. They may be in the middle of a nightmare at home and their wife tries to wake them. And the veteran assaults the wife not knowing what's going on, or being woken up suddenly from sleep. But whatever the reasons are, what happens is those veterans often find themselves in the criminal justice system, charged with a crime. Let's just call it like it is. They're charged with a crime. And so what we've realized is that the regular criminal justice system is not equipped to help the veterans in the way that they need help, with the goal of never seeing them again. So I know that I recognize some of you from my criminal court before. No, I don't. I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to make sure. Don't raise your hand. I don't want to know. I do not want to know. I don't want to know who that is. But from my criminal court before. But if you've ever been to court before, what you realize is that if people come in one at a time, it's almost a one-size-fits-all. So if you have a DWI, you do X amount of probation, you do X amount of fine, you do this class, and this class. If you successfully complete it, you go about your business. If you don't successfully complete it, then you're sanctioned and all, and you go about individually through the criminal justice system with the goal, again, of never seeing your face again. But it's still not the way that veterans should be treated, because veterans come in the criminal justice system just a little bit more unique than most. All agree with that? Okay, and so how do we do that? So how do we handle a veteran who's now finds themselves in the criminal justice system? We had a judge up in New York, and so apparently some good things come out of New York. We had a judge come out from New York, and they started a veterans court. And what that is, it's different. It's a holistic approach to treating a veteran who's now finds themselves in a criminal justice system. And by the way, when you told me a holistic approach, I thought when I first heard of Veterans Court and this holistic approach, I thought it was a hug-a-thug program, that I like to call, or a hug-a-veteran program, I like to call. And I'm not really into hug-a-thug programs myself. And so I really was a little skeptical about the whole Veterans Court concept because I just thought we were going to give a free ride to veterans, and I don't think you give veterans free rides. They committed a crime, they need to pay for that crime, but they are unique and we need to handle them differently. And so the judge in New York realized this and decided to set up a new system under what we call a drug court concept, and let me explain that to you. So what it is, when I normally go to court, I just see, like I mentioned before, one person at a time. They come in, do their case, they make their argument, I make the decision, and they leave. And we do that over and over and over and over again. Veterans Court is different than that. Veterans Court has a team approach to it, and so let me explain. An hour before I go to court, I meet with the Veterans Court team. Okay, on that team is a representative from the district attorney's office, a representative from the defense attorney, right? Because the veteran deserves to have counsel. Has a probation officer, has our veteran service officers, some of which are here today. We have someone from the jail. We also are assigned someone from the Veterans Administration, so I have immediate access to the VA records of that veteran. Okay, I don't have open access to it. I don't have it on my computer, right? Because that's none of my business. But if I need information about a veteran, then we have that information available to the team. And the team is what approaches and really is the foundation of the veteran court system. And so before you even get into Veterans Court, you have to be vetted by the team. And let me back up and tell you, how do you get to Veterans Court? Not every veteran is eligible for Veterans Court. I served in the United States Marine Corps. I did not see combat. Nothing affects me or my personality or anything because of my military service. My hair never grew back. But other than that, I've been not affected by military service. And so I wouldn't be eligible for Veterans Court, nor should I be, in my opinion. I just shouldn't be. Veterans who commit sexual crimes, okay, sexual assault, crimes against children, sexual assaults, they're not eligible for the court for obvious reasons. People who commit murder and all that's not eligible for the court. But for those people in between who have served their country and suffer from a mental disease or defect as a result or of their military service, not necessarily combat, from their military service, then they're eligible to go into Veterans Court. The first stop to determine whether or not you get into Veterans Court or not is through the district attorney's office. The district attorney's office is the prosecuting authority for any county, and they should be able to say who gets the benefit of Veterans Court and who doesn't. And so each DA in their respective counties has that first option, although they've been great, by the way, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. And so that's their first option. And then the team decides and usually interviews the veteran to make sure that they're a good fit and that we can do something for that veteran. Now, some people have the concept, some Veterans Court in the United States have the concept that they're too high risk. And so we're not going to help them. We're going to help those other veterans that are easier to deal with, that are low risk. Well, then you're not doing any veterans any favors. Veterans will perform better on probation, even outside of Veterans Court, than any other part of the criminal justice system. Why? They're compliant by nature, right? And so they're going to be successful anyway. And so, but some people, for their statistic reasons and stuff, will go, okay, well, let's take the easy veterans. Well, I don't subscribe to that either, and neither does anybody on the team. We do high risk, high needs as well, because those are the veterans we can help the most. Those are the veterans who are in most critical position to reoffend, to find themselves in the penitentiary, or even commit suicide. And so we believe that, but we interview that veteran to make sure that we have the tools necessary to help that veteran so we never see their face again. And so they come into court. And so once they're into the court, now they're part of the Veterans Court environment. And what that means is, so I told you we met an hour before court, and then we actually go into the courtroom. In the courtroom are all the veterans. We sit there all together. And so we have the veterans in the courtroom. We have the entire Veterans Court team in the courtroom. We have the mentors in the courtroom, which I want to talk to you about later. The importance of the mentor program in a Veterans Court that you don't see in a regular court. We also have service providers, many of you whom are here, that if they offer services to veterans, they can come there and introduce themselves to the veterans and to the court and offer their services. And so what we do is, after we talked about the veteran before the court, one by one, individually, to find out what those individual needs are for that particular veteran. What is that? Is their problem an alcohol problem? So how are we addressing that alcohol problem? Do we put a monitor on their ankle that monitors their alcohol intake all the time, 24/7? Is it drugs? So we put a drug patch on them that we monitor their drug use. Do they need counseling? Do they need PTSD therapy? Do they need group therapy? Do they need individual therapy? Are they having housing issues? Right? We have housing issues with veterans. And so how do we address their housing issues? Are they having problems at home? We need to talk about how the family can get some help and counseling and stuff. Do they have employment issues? We have somebody from the TVC, usually there at all courts, who helps us with trying to get employment for that. So it's literally a holistic approach of how we do with that veteran, one by one by one by one. And so when we go into court, I know everything about the veteran that's been going on since the last time I saw him. And I call up one veteran at a time. Mr. Smith, how are things going? It's going good, Judge. On a scale from 1 to 10, how are things going? Well, about a 6. Why isn't it any better? Well, let me tell you my issues that I've had this month. And that's great. A lot of times I know the issues. I know they pop positive on a drug test. Okay? I know they pop positive on an alcohol test. I know that the police were called to their house because they had a domestic violence problem at their home. Usually when they have a problem like that, where do you think they go? They go to jail. Okay? And so instantaneous. You messed up, if you failed your drug test, that's against the rules, you go to jail. From anywhere from however long me and the team decide to do that as a sanction. So a lot of times when we talk about Veterans Court, people think, again, it's a hug-a-thug program, that we're just giving veterans a special treatment. And no, we're just giving them the treatment they deserve. There's nothing special about it. It's that they deserve it. But I'm telling you that Veterans Court is harder than any probation those people would ever be on, because they have me and the entire team watching them 24/7 each day. And so we talk about every veteran, every need. If they have a need, like housing need, then I have access to grants that is generously funded by the Texas Veterans Commission. I have a $150,000 grant for the North Texas Veterans Court, which I'll explain. And that allows me to put money towards rents, put money towards transportation issues, towards other treatment outside the VA. Whatever that person needs, that veteran needs, I'm able to fund that through the Veterans Commission. And so we do that every single veteran. And as they progress, we have 3 phases in our Veterans Court team. As they progress, we continue to watch them and congratulate them. I'm their biggest fan. I'm their biggest cheerleader, but I'm the worst accountability partner you would ever want in your whole life, because they have to follow the rules. They have to do this. And so, because that's the integrity of the system. Because here's the payoff that people don't realize with the Veterans Court. Once that veteran successfully completes Veterans Court, in the majority of instances, then those charges are dismissed and their record is expunged. And by expunged, what I mean is it's destroyed. So the fingerprint card that they had done when they were arrested is destroyed. The bookend photo that they had is destroyed. The offense report that the police filled out is destroyed. And everything on our computer systems is gone forever. It's a crime to refer to that case again if a record has been expunged. And isn't that awesome? And so the way I look at it is, because at the end of the day, at the end of Veterans Court, what we want is for their civilian record to match their honorable civil record. And so then they're set up for success. Then it's hard enough as a veteran to get a job. But now, can you imagine having that arrest or conviction on your record? You can't get a job. And so you have that clear. You're financially stable usually by the time you get out of Veterans Court. You have everything going for you. Your record's expunged. You could pass a security clearance. If anybody asks on a job application, have you ever been arrested? The answer is no. They legally say no. Have you ever been convicted? The answer is no. And so that is the brilliance of the program. So people go, how can you decide effectiveness of a program? Usually in our criminal justice system, the recidivism rate, and that's how we judge success or failures in the criminal justice system, is the likelihood, or actually the actuality, of someone being arrested for a crime within a 5-year period. So what's your 5-year recidivism rate? Generally, it's over 60% in the regular folks. 60% of people are rearrested. It's terrible. 7 to 9% of veterans will be rearrested who have graduated from the Veterans Court. So it's remarkable. Not everybody makes it. Not everybody makes it through. It's too hard for some. We don't have the resources available to them. I was talking to somebody earlier, said they have to want it, right, to get fixed. And we have the tools for them, but I don't do the hard work. The veteran does the hard work, right? They're the one that has to change their way of doing things, to change the way they're thinking, take the medications they're supposed to be on, go to the appointments they're supposed to be on, behave when they get at home, behave when they go out in public, do all those things. They have the hard job, but if they're willing to put in the work, The court is there to assist them and give them that opportunity to come out with a clean record. And so it's phenomenal. So I started the Collin County Veterans Court about 4 years ago, I think 4.5 years ago or so. And so we started it, and the county of Rockwall came to me and said, hey, look, will you come educate our judges on Veterans Court and how to get that started? I said, well, I think Rockwall is pretty nice this time of year. I think I'll drive down to Rockwall, and I'll have a nice meeting with the Rockwall judges and everybody, and the DAs. They had an informal program already, but they just hadn't formalized it. They didn't have a judge running it, so it wasn't really a recognized Veterans Court. And so I told the judges, and the district attorney, who's awesome and a big fan of Veterans Court, and I said, here's how you do it. I explained everything I just explained to you. And they said, that's great. When can you start? And you know, in the military, you don't ever volunteer for nothing, right? Every time I did that, I get, you know what I mean. So they said, hey, when can you start? And I was like, well, when can I start? What does that mean? So I figured out a system with the judges there and the district attorney that I'd be a traveling judge on Fridays. And so I'd go once a month to Rockwall, and I would preside over their Rockwall County Veterans Court. And so now it's a part of the North Texas Veterans Court. Well, then Grayson County heard about this guy who volunteered for this thing. And if he's on the road, then why don't I do that? So Joe Brown up there is the district attorney up there. He said, hey, can you come out? And I think they figured out the trick. Can you come out and educate us about Veterans Court? So I said, sure, I'll go up and educate you, but I think I've been here before. So I went up and educated Grayson County about the Veterans Court program. And lo and behold, they said, when can you start? And then Fannin County called me up and said, hey, when can you start? And then Kaufman County called me up and said, when can you start? And so now those 5 counties are the North Texas Veterans Court program. I'm proud to tell you it is the only regional veterans court of its kind in the entire United States. And I'm proud of that for many reasons, and that has nothing to do with me. I didn't tell you how you create a veterans court. The first thing you have to do is have to have the DA's buy-in. Okay? I told you that. The second thing you do, you have to have the commissioner's court in your county to buy in and pass a resolution creating the veterans court. Has anybody ever dealt with the commissioner's court before? I'm telling you what. I think it's the same 5 commissioners that travel all over the state and act exactly the same way. That's not true. That is true, actually. But they supported the Veterans Court. They supported the Veterans Court in Collin County. And then they had a strange judge come in to Rockwall County and say, hey, I want to start this. Who the heck is this guy coming from another county in our court? Once they were educated about it, 100% buy-in from the Rockwall Commissioner's Court and the sheriff and all the judges and all the elected officials. Imagine that. All those elected officials having to get together to approve a foreign judge, right? An outsider judge to come into their county to run Veterans Court. Because they're veterans, they supported it. They did the same thing in Grayson County, they did the same thing in Fannin County, and they did the same thing in Kaufman County. And so it is not a testament of what I've done. It is a testament on how people just like you and this coalition just like here, when we work together and we put all of our differences aside, our political affiliations, whatever we believe about whatever, and we put veterans first and foremost in our minds and what we can what we can do to help veterans and how that works, that's how we get things done, and that's how we help veterans. And so I'm proud of all those 5 counties and do it. Now my wife did call kibosh on the 6th county. She said, you're not doing that anymore, because every Friday, so what my staff does in Collin County, we work and do the same amount of work that everybody else does up there in 5 days, we do it in 4. We have work Monday through Thursday on what I call a regular court docket, and Fridays is our road day. That's when we hit the road and we go to county to county. And each of those counties, by the way, has its own team. Okay? And so I'm the one that travels, and I have a coordinator that travels with me that is paid for through my grant through the Veterans Commission, and the 2 of us and the VA representative go to each of the counties, but the teams are local. And so we have local teams in each of those counties that are much more plugged into their communities and stuff and help us have a successful Veterans Court. And so that's what we do, and like I said, we're changing lives. And the example I can give in changing lives, and then I'll wrap it up for you, is I had a veteran come in. Oh, let me back up and say this, because I don't want to forget this. our mentor program is critical to the success of what we do. And we have many of the mentors that travel with me. A lot of them do travel with me from county to county here today. Could you raise your hand or stand up and so we can recognize you for your help in the mentor corps? Mr. Smith, raise your hand. These gentlemen and ladies come to court, and each of the veterans are assigned a mentor. And that makes all the difference in the world. They're not part of the team, right? They don't go back in the room and make decisions about them, because why would the veteran think they're tattletales, right? Because if they, right? Because you have this buddy, let's go have coffee together, and by the way, I'm going to go tell the judge everything we talked about and get hammered for it. They don't do that. They're there just like a battle buddy to help them through. Many of these mentors have experienced the things that these usually younger veterans are experiencing, and they're a critical part of what we do. So at the end, if you're going to ask me, hey, what can we do to help? Number one, if anybody wants to pay for barbecue at lunch, I'm open to it, by the way. I'm open to it. I'm just kidding. That's the least of thing I would need. If you want to be a mentor in the Veterans Court, then you go through our mentor folks, Mr. Smith, and these others, and go through the program and get signed up for it and see if we can't use you to be a mentor in our program. But that's really what I'd ask you to do. That's my takeaway for you. Your ask is to become a mentor in the court. But the success is, let me explain to you, is we had a veteran come in, and he was arrested for heroin possession. You know why he gets on heroin, by the way? Because he was overprescribed hydrocodone. And he was shopping hydrocodone, because that's our opiate problem that we keep hearing about, because that's what we do. We throw pills at people, okay? And the VA's responsible for some of that too, but several of our private doctors and stuff, they're trying to help. They're not doing it on purpose. They're not. They got a veteran in pain. They want to help the pain, but they keep doing it. So it's not malicious, but they do. They're overprescribed, and then those veterans are shopping around. Well, then they figure out it's hard to get the stuff. And so you know what's opiates? Heroin. It's a lot cheaper on the street than it is going to a pharmacy, and a lot easier, harder to track. And so this veteran came in heroin possession. He was found passed out with a heroin needle in his arm. Done. He'd lost his house, he lost his car, he lost his job, and most importantly, he lost his family. Done. And he's looking at going to the penitentiary, and I think he figured he was going there. And he was introduced to the Collin County Veterans Court. And so he came into our program, and when they first come to me, we don't get along so well. Right? I got rules for them. They don't like rules that much because they're addicts at this point, right? They don't like rules very much, and so we didn't get along very well. So he had some sanctions. He probably went to jail a couple times to get his attention. We got his attention. And he worked the program. He went to therapies. He went to inpatient treatment. He made it through it. Stumbled a little bit, but made it through it. He began to try to rebuild a relationship with his family, and he was able to do that. He couldn't find a job, and so we helped him get through the Texas Veterans Commission and other employment agencies to pay for his HVAC license. So he got his HVAC license, and he found a job. Why did he find a job? Because he's not a convicted felon. Right? That's the only reason. So he went in and he got a job, and then by the time he left, he was working on the HVAC system, probably managing a team of installing and repairing HVAC systems, making a very decent amount of money. When he graduated, he had his truck back, he had a house, he had a job, and he reunited with his family, not his wife, but his kids, and his wife was supportive of him because she wanted him to get better, and he did. And so he now has a relationship with his family again. And he said at his graduation, because we make them speak at their graduation about what they learned in the Veterans Court, is that if it wasn't for the Veterans Court, okay, and I'm not talking me, I'm talking about the Veterans Court, the concept of it, the people, the mentors, the VA, the resources, everybody in their community uniting behind veterans one at a time. If it wasn't for them, he'd be dead. And I'm telling you, there's no doubt in my mind, if it wasn't for the Veterans Court, he'd be dead. So I am honored, beyond honored, to preside over such a life-changing court for our veterans. We appreciate, like I said, your support in allowing me to come here and talk to you. Appreciate the commissioners' courts throughout the entire region supporting it, the district attorney's office, and everybody else. And so I just wanted to educate you on this. I hope that I see you at Veterans Court sometime. If you ever want to watch this, come on up. I think we're in Collin County. I get confused because I don't know where I am most Fridays. Is it the second Friday? We're the second Friday of the month, generally. If you want to come up to the courthouse, you need to let me know ahead of time. My coordinator's name is Jennifer Smith. Her email address is jlsmith@collincountytx.gov. US. I'm sorry. Oh, is it right there? Right there. Well, don't I look foolish, don't I? All right. If you'd like her email address, it's right here on the screen. But call her and let me know you're here. And we'd love to see you. I'd love to see what we're doing and the things that are happening right here under your noses that most of y'all don't even know about. But I appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
You take any questions?
Yeah, I will. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see, the judge has a few minutes to take questions.
What kind of volume do you see
Okay.
through?
So I have about, right now, 65 veterans in the entire region. Okay, Collin County being our biggest one because we're the most populated. So we have about 22 to 25 veterans there. We have our smallest one is Fannin County, and we have about 5 in Fannin County, and it just fluctuates. So I could tell the Texas Veterans Commission that I could handle about 80, I think. That's pushing it, but I could probably handle 80 at a time.
And the time span from start to finish on an average?
On average, I'm going to tell you it's 18 months.
Okay.
So you got guys coming in with Class B misdemeanor, which is a low misdemeanor possession of marijuana. And we have other guys coming in with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Okay? So which they're looking at pen time, like 20 years in the pen. So some of those guys go faster just because it's not fair on a Class B misdemeanor to hold them for 2 years or 3 years. The longest guy had is 4 years. It was one of my first ones. I tried so hard and tried so hard and tried so hard, and he didn't make it. He's in the penitentiary today, but we're a little bit quicker about that because we can't take that much time. But you know, the reason why Kaufman County came on board, when we asked about Kaufman County, they said, "Oh, we don't have enough veterans coming through the system. We don't need veterans court." And not in a rude way, just we just didn't have the resources to do that. We don't need a veterans court. I don't know if y'all know this. We have a system called VRSS that the jails have to report daily to the state about the veterans going through the jail. Each county has to do that. And so I said, "Hey, did you know about this?" And she said, "I didn't know about that." I said, "So why don't you do that for about 30 days?" And about 30 days, or maybe it's 60 days, she had 48 veterans go through the jail. And she didn't know. Mostly Navy. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I just had to say it. But anyway, but that's not true. I'm just kidding. But so we have a lot more veterans going through the system than we actually even believe is true. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'm curious, your recidivism rate is incredible. Has there been any kind of movement from the state to try to take that? And I realize we're dealing with a different demographic, but still, any success at all would translate any reduction in recidivism into billions in savings for the state.
It does. So when I told you we're really premised on a program called the drug court program. That really started as a civilians. And so we have drug court program. If you ever heard of DWI court, that's a drug court program. You hear a drug court, that's a drug court program. Some counties have prostitution court, which is a drug court program. It's still kind of the same individual context. And they are more successful than the regular straight probation. But it takes a lot of resources to get that done, a lot of resources. And here's what they don't have. They don't have veterans. If you're a heroin addict and you're not a veteran, we don't have the resources for you. You don't have access to inpatient treatment, right? Because that's where we get that through the VA. You need housing because you're strung out on heroin, and all you need to do is get the hell out of your neighborhood and go someplace else. You don't have the money to go to housing. No one's going to give. Anybody going to give to the Drug Addict Foundation? See, they just don't do that. And so, yes, they are more successful. But our veterans are blessed because the community support and the community funds are available for veterans, and so we're more successful as a result. And veterans are more compliant as a group. I'm their commanding officer, okay, right? And so they thrive on that. And then XOs use the probation officer and stuff, and so they thrive on that hierarchy, and they're very compliant. Unlike a regular civilian who doesn't have that in them. I mean, or they had it in them, they just never got it out of them. All right, because they weren't in the military. But that's why we're more compliant. Okay. What other questions? Yes, sir.
Besides your 5 counties, any other opportunities for people locally?
To do other things?
Sir?
To do other things for veterans?
Other treatment courts?
Oh, other treatment courts. Besides my 5 counties? Oh, sure. There's veteran treatment courts all over the place. So Dallas has their own. Is that what you mean? Yeah, Dallas has their own. Denton has their own. Bear County has their own. Matter of fact, Bear County just contacted me this week and said, "Hey, we want to help counties around Bear County. Tell me how you did it." So that's what I'm looking for. I was just thinking about this. If every judge did what I do. And I'm not saying that I'm anything special, but if you just took on one other county, we could double the geographical size of our reach to Veterans Court. What I didn't want to do is have some false boundary on some stupid map to prevent a veteran from getting help. And so that's why I reached over, because can you imagine just being just over, you don't get the benefit. You just don't do it. So anyway, so we have them all over the Texas and all over the United States. Ours is the only regional one as we speak, but it's a big deal, and they're growing every day. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Milton Cannon, commander for DAD here in McKinney.
Yes, sir.
I may have missed it, but how does a veteran know that this court exists?
Okay.
So let's say if he's arrested, and if he's arrested, what would be the process? And maybe I missed this. You probably
No, I did not say it. I did not tell you.
So where is it that we know that he can get assigned to the Veterans Court?
Okay, he can apply for it, just so you know that it's not a right, it's a privilege to be in Veterans Court. So he won't be assigned, we have to apply. So here's how it happens. I keep doing things like this. Y'all go back and tell your 10 friends about this, and y'all spread it out. So that's one way, is public education. That's my prerogative I need to do more of. And so I love having opportunities like this because I would like to do that. So that's one. We educate the defense lawyers who represent the defendants, right? We tell them, hey, this is available to your client. It's a huge deal for their client. You get their charge dismissed, their record expunged, you're awesome if you're able to get him that. So we do the defense lawyer. The judges know. And so I had a referral the other day of a judge goes, hey, listen, are you a veteran? Because you can tell, right? You can kind of tell. And he goes, I am. He goes, well, do you know about the Veterans Court program? Him and his lawyer didn't know. He goes, so go down and see Judge Roach. So they walked down the hallway and came and saw me. And the jail also knows. And so we have a representative from the jail on each one of our teams. We identify that guy or gal as a veteran. And the jail staff will go down and talk to him about it and get him an application and tell him about it. So people are still slipping through the cracks, but we're doing the best we can. The VA knows about it. So when they run into VA people who are saying, hey, I need some counseling, I've gotten some criminal trouble, they go, oh, have you checked into Veterans Court? Yes, ma'am. Yeah. The question is, how does the crime relate to their service? It used to be very specific, that you suffered from a diagnosable mental disease or defect that is directly related to your military service, which is directly related to your crime. Okay? So that was kind of hard. We had a guy switch tags at Walmart on CD players. I don't care if he's a veteran, he's just stupid. I mean, but so that had nothing to do with nothing. He was just stupid, so he didn't get into court, right? But when you have a correlation between alcohol use, drug use, post-deployment, or something like that, that's when you start to make that connection. Now, the legislature has backed off on that. Now it's for any defect that you have as a result of your military service. It doesn't have to be combat or anything like that. For example, we have a big problem in the military called MST. Y'all know what that is? Military sexual trauma. Okay? That's a factor in deciding whether to get a Veterans Court. And so the legislature has opened up that a lot more than it used to be when we first started, although I'm pretty restrictive about it. Although that's the legislature opened it up, each county gets to say what it is. I don't think I deserve to be in Veterans Court. Okay? Because I didn't serve in combat. I got nothing. I mean, if I committed a crime, if I got a DWI tomorrow, has nothing to do with nothing. It's just I just did something stupid. So I'm a little bit more strict about the law, the law allowing me to do it, and each county has its little own ideas about that, but it is pretty wide open. So don't ever not apply because you don't think you get in. We do not take people who dishonorably discharge, okay? And the reason why is we had a guy apply this last week about it. The reason why we can't offer them any services. The Veterans Commission doesn't offer grant funds to those people. The VA doesn't offer services to those people, and so we can't get them an inpatient treatment. So there's not much we can do for them. So we don't take dishonorably discharged folks. What other questions do you have? I'll sit here and answer them all day. Y'all better be careful.
Is it, I know I've talked to you before.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Being able to, I know you said you're full, but can like Hunt County join your region?
I've been trying to get Hunt County to join my region for a long damn time. So have you. Me and you have.
And I finally talked to Judge Bench
Okay.
the other day, trying to get him to get Novi on.
Right.
And this is working. He said, well, the people in this district elected me to be judge, so
Right.
I want to try my own.
That's right.
cases.
That's right.
So that came up with the idea of maybe could we piggyback and join and let, because I could probably get Hunt, Hopkins, and Lamar.
I could teach your judge in Hunt County how to do it. And I can be a resource for that judge. If he wants to start as the hub and get him go around and pick up the other counties, I'd be happy to do that. I'd be happy to do that. I've done that. I went to Oklahoma not too long ago and drove up to Oklahoma, talked to a group up there about how to start a regional veterans court in Oklahoma. I don't know exactly how Oklahoma works. I mean, it's Oklahoma. But I'm telling you, I did the best I could. Had to talk a little slower. I had to do that kind of stuff. But I think they got it. That's not true. Y'all are terrible. Y'all really bring out the worst in me. That's just terrible. What else? Yes?
Yes, Judge. In addition to your ask for people to serve as mentors, how might service providers, community organizations be a part of the resource?
That would be my next ask. For example, we have some equestrian folks, right, that do equine therapy, who the veterans have found very, very beneficial. We have private counselors who come in and say, hey, I need to do this. Now, let me tell you this, though. If you come in and say, I'm going to do private counseling at $300 an hour, which I've had that happen. Hey, listen, I want to be a resource for you. I want to do some counseling for you. So what's it cost me? It'll be $300 an hour. I can't do it. I just don't have the resource to do it. But if you're willing to discount it, I mean, it's a steep discount for me. Equine therapy, private. We have the fisherman group. I'm sorry, I just going blank. Yeah, that's right. Heroes on the Water. We have another group that does hunting, which I have some issues with. But I truly do have some issues with that. Not with hunting itself, but taking these guys who are in treatment to hunting. But we have that resource for us for the right person and stuff. And so if you don't know where you fit in, holler at me. I'll tell you if you fit in or you don't. I'll be honest with you. And if I do, but if you have an idea with your group how you could help veterans and I just don't know about you, please educate me because I'd love to know what's out there for veterans. What else? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So for the attorneys, I was looking at the website, and I see it says you have the Texas Law Help, which is the free legal help. Do you have a list of attorneys, or is there attorneys that, groups of practices that specifically help these veterans that are not really represented,
They typically get public defenders. She's asked how attorneys can get involved. They usually have public defenders, and then the public defender gets them through the plea into the court, and then we have a defense attorney on the team who takes over representing that veteran. Per county. They do it for free. They're not, everybody on this team, by the way, I keep saying that, and I probably should have said that. Other than my coordinator that runs the court and me, other than that, the probation officer, the defense attorney, the DA, the veteran service officer, the sheriff's office representative, that's all for nothing. That's just in addition to their regular duties. And so it doesn't cost you, your taxpayers, anything to fund the team because they're all there. And their elected officials approve it, by the way. The sheriff approved it, the DA approved it, those people approved it. So, but it doesn't cost you anything extra to have that team. Yes, they can reach out and say they want to volunteer. The attorneys, they absolutely can. And by the way, sometimes we need attorneys because these guys have family law problems. They have family law problems and say, hey, I got a custody case, or CPS is involved, right? Because they're a heroin addict and they got kids. CPS is involved. And so I say, hey, I need an attorney to represent me in that CPS case. Now, that's a heck of a volunteer job to represent somebody, but yes, all you have to do is volunteer. What else? Anybody else? I don't want to take the floor all afternoon. Hey, I want to thank you again I love the questions because that means you're interested and you actually wanted to follow up on stuff. Please holler at me. I'd love to help you. And anybody else, I really appreciate the opportunity to address you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.